what I'm kind of dancing around here is like, the reason this happened is because there are multitudes of companies here that have invested hundreds of millions of dollars into making the single most addictive thing ever and putting it in the hand of a bunch of 13-year-olds, right? This is way closer to the people smoking cigarettes and, big tobacco doing all these ad campaigns aimed at children from the 50s to the 70s than it is just a bunch of people, being dumb with a new thing. And I think there's kind of a denial about that because we don't want to admit it, right? We don't want to admit, same way like if you meet a smoker who started smoking back then, who was, a victim of this advertising, you'll never hear them go, or I mean, even more modern than that, if you meet somebody who started vaping in middle school, because those advertisements very much still exist, you'll never hear them go like, I do this because I saw an ad when I was 13 and I was an idiot at 13. They always go like, I can't quit and it's my fault because I'm an idiot. Like, they always kind of have to internalize it a little bit more, which on the one hand, I don't think is the worst thing, right? Because, you can, if maybe through taking some sort of responsibility, that's the first step to circumventing it. But I think understanding that, like, there are huge, giant, powerful people behind a lot of these things. And, an entire generation doesn't just start using an app because it's a bad trend, right? If we do want to say that, and I'm not gonna, I don't know the science well enough to say how valid the scientific claims are of this whole thing is, that's why I haven't discussed that here today. But if we do want to say this dopamine meta-narrative is true, that life is just all about dopamine, the idea that a whole generation just kind of got together and was like, yeah, let's screw up our dopamine receptors, it's a idiotic one. I mean, it's idiotic, it's misplaced, and it's very obviously just not true, right? So I don't know. I think the conversation around dopamine as a meta-narrative doesn't interest me as much as the conversation around why we're having this why this exists, right? Why this meta-narrative about dopamine exists, and two, whose fault is that, and how are we going to see that in the future, and how'd they get out of that being, we kind of figured out whose fault it was with big tobacco and all that, right? Nobody goes, oh man, all those 10-year-olds in, 1960 were just dumb 10-year-olds. Nobody's saying that, right? We circumvented that through, regulation and all these things, and then they invented vapes, and it was, now they have a new way to do it, and then Zins or whatever those are, right? But I think that's a more productive conversation, in my opinion. This is the progress on the painting.